Welcome back. You're still watching The Globe. Now, the South African Energy Forum says that Eskom is not being forthright with the real problems being faced by the power utility. They say that the amount of gatekeeping happening at executive level is a major issue, leading to rolling blackouts that we're experiencing in the country. Well, joining us for more on this is Hlathi Madela, who's the Executive Director of the South African Energy Forum. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. To say that we're in the middle of an energy crisis perhaps is to understate the obvious, but there's so many people giving us different versions of how we got here. What's your take about where we are, how we got here, and what can be done? Hello, Mr. Madela, can you hear me?
First of all, good evening to you, Peter, and good evening to the... I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Carry on.
Well, first of all, good evening to you, Peter, and good evening to the listeners at home. In terms of how we got here, it's a little bit speculative on how we got here. There's rumors flying around that we got here because of whatever many reasons that people have advanced. But the fact of the matter is the plants that are there that were supposed to be giving power to South Africa, they still are there and they have a lifespan, and that lifespan is well understood. So we will never really know what are the reasons how we got here. We have our own suspicion of how we got here. And in terms of what can be done to get us out of the quagmire and the mess that we are in, we are of the view that the obvious solution is that we need to ask ourselves very hard questions. Have we got the right people to make the right decisions? Because the machines that all 15 of them, the coal-based load power stations, most of them shouldn't be given reasons of why they continue having problems. So for us, we think the right people have to be put in charge of Eskom to be able to arrest the load shedding. I don't know if I answered your question as you expected me. I think you had three legs on the question you asked, how we got here and what can be done. What was the other part of your question?
All right, but perhaps let's just move on. Is it as easy as just changing the leadership? Because in the end, we hear about an aging fleet in terms of the machines and the power stations, and that the problem has been mostly historic, that servicing just wasn't happening, and that this has now come home to roost. Does it matter who is in charge? Because all of this would still be there.
It matters quite a lot who is in charge, because we've had different leaderships of Eskom, for instance, in the last 15 years. What we do know is that there was a CEO prior to this CEO and few people in management and the board prior to this one. That CEO, Pagamani Hadebe, he seemed to be moving in the right direction because he was beginning to get into the heart of the real problems. As to how he was mysteriously removed, we will never know. We were given an excuse. What we know with this particular CEO, he is failing and is refusing to attend to the actual power stations of Eskom. Instead, he's looking for other people to bail him out. Yet, technically and scientifically, the machines have got the lifespan, and even the reasons that he advances, it's reasons that should be arrested, that should be dealt with and be cleared out of the system. However, he keeps giving us the same reason, which means that he himself and his leadership are not wanting to attend to these problems once and for all. So we require a management that is going to go there and attend to the very same reasons that are being advanced, that they are the reason why these machines keep breaking up and why we continue having load shedding. So yes, the change of leadership is definitely going to work, because the other problem that we have a skills challenge in that board, in the sense that from the minister himself and his director general not being able to stamp their authority on the leadership of Eskom, which is itself is incapacitated, because if you look at the profile of the CEO, he's a lawyer, And then you've got his second in command, Jan Oberhauser, whose engineering background is very, very shaky. And the power station managers, the people who are really in charge of the machines, they don't come out and actually even advance reports to management so that management can say, this is what our power station managers are telling us. They speak as if they went there to witness the problems themselves. So we need a leadership that is going to be in touch with the power station managers to arrest these problems up until all these problems are cleared out and resolved.
Brian Malitho was not an engineer, and some people say he did a good job. So do you have to be an engineer?
Well, not necessarily that you have to be an engineer, but you have to be somebody that appreciates being capacitated and seconded by the engineers. The board of Eskom on its own, I believe there's only one or two people who've got an engineering background. They're not even close to the CEO. Forget about the old man called Jan Oberhauser. He's got some engineering in the dark ages. I don't want to talk about it. So to answer your question, you don't necessarily have to be an industrial plant. You have to have a reputation of having made things happen where you come from. Andre de Ruyter comes from companies where he has failed left, right, center. Even in America, with Lex Chai's project, he is incriminated. Story short, Brian Malefe may have been an accountant, but what he did, he motivated the plant managers and he motivated the power station managers and he motivated his engineering staff, and he was willing to be led by his engineering staff. Andre de Ruyter comes out and tells us that there is no solution for Eskom. Please bring me the IPPs. He's not saying what his engineers are saying. This is a man who always speaks for himself and about himself, and he never say, my engineers, this particular engineer, that particular engineer tells me I need 1, 2, 3. That is why it raises eyebrows to us. When are we actually going to get to hear from the engineers? So to answer your question, yes, you don't necessarily need someone who's an engineer, but Andy de Ruyter is a failure on all fronts. And in fact, he doesn't want to solve the problem. He just wants to see Eskom vanish from the face of the earth. So bring someone, whether that someone has got an engineering background or not, but it has to be somebody who appreciates and value the work of the engineers and make them flourish and make them love their work and make them feel motivated. And they mustn't fear to go and report to him what challenges they are facing and what types of support do they need in terms of budget and resources. This is what Andre de Ruyter is not doing. He doesn't have a relationship with his power station managers.
All right. I suppose perhaps if you can answer this last question quite quickly. He didn't appoint himself. So should we be looking to the board that was appointed and the people that appointed the board for ultimate responsibility?
I don't think at the moment we can afford to be blamed, to be entering into the blame game. I think the Department of Public Enterprises, the minister himself, it's time, and the president, it's time that they realize that Andre de Ruyter and his leadership team, the entire board, are simply not qualified to run this big machine called Eskom. They must go out and hunt for the right people and even consult the people who have run Eskom before and ask themselves what type of people they should be having on their board. So for now, in terms of blame game, let's move that. Let's just accept that we hope that even the Department of Public Enterprise itself, even the president himself, looking at what is happening, they do realize that it's time to replace this board, it's time to replace the CEO and his CUO, to replace them with the people who are going to raise their hand and say they can run Eskom.
All right, that's where we're going to have to leave it. Thank you so much indeed for joining us, and your insights greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you, sir.
All right, that's Mr. Madela, who's the Executive Director at the South African Energy Forum. And in essence, he's saying that the management and the board at Eskom are not fit for purpose, and a change is required if we need to find a way to get us out of the current situation.